Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. It's T here, and I'm back to finish off my previous story time. If you haven't watched it yet, please go back and watch T's first time. So now I'm going to tell you what happened when me and D first got together. So let me give you a backstory on this as well. So when we first met, like I said in the previous video, when I first saw him, he was coming out of a class and he had just had a fight. And I don't know what it was about him or what I saw in him, but he was just so fine to me. I don't know. I can't even explain it to you, but he was fine. And that was my sophomore year of high school. So I'm pretty sure my junior year of high school, well, actually, this all happened in my sophomore year of high school. So I had a computer science class, and my teacher, she had talked me into auditioning to be a cheerleader. And I never had thought about being a cheerleader ever before. Never considered it before. But when she had mentioned it, I was like, okay, cool. Why not? Let me just try it out. So at this time, I had just became friends with a girl named, let's call her Sandra. This is very important, so let's call her Sandra. So I just became friends with Sandra. She had just transferred to our school. She was very new. She sat next to me in like our English class, I believe. So I had came to her and told her what my teacher had told me about auditioning for cheerleading, and she was like, okay, well, let's do it together. And I was like, cool. Like, now I'm more motivated because I'm doing it with my friend at this time. So I'm like, okay, why not? Let's do it. So we went to the auditioning together, watched the cheers and everything, and then we would go back to my house and try to practice it. So, also in the same year, like I said, I was in a class with D that year. I'm not sure what class it was, but I do know he never really came to class. Never. Like, it amazed me how he would come to class and know all the answers to all the questions. Like, he was very smart. So when he first came into the class and I realized this, I'm like, oh my God, like, he's just so beautiful to me. And mind you, when there are people and sometimes will tell you like how your smile just lights up the room, I never understood it until I met him, because he just had such a beautiful smile. His character was just everything. Like, he was just a beautiful person to me all around. So we would have conversations in class and just talk. I don't even know what we talked about, but we would just talk. The attraction was definitely there. We both were attracted to each other, and then we ended up exchanging numbers. So this man gives me he gave me 3 numbers, and he was like, just call me tonight. So I called one number. His mother picks up and was like, he's not here. And I'm like, okay. So I call another number. He picks up, and we talked for a little bit, and then he was like, call me on the other number I gave you. So me not knowing which number he's talking about, so I call him back on his mom's number. So I call that number, and his mother answers again, and she was like, baby, I just told you he's not here. So I'm like, okay, cool. So needless to say, I didn't call back anymore because I was like, I'm not going to be like a bugaboo. And then I'm thinking he gave me a wrong number anyway. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So the next day he comes to class and he was like, why you didn't call me back? Like, I told you to call me back on the other number. And I was like, well, I did, but your mother answered and she told me you weren't there. So he was like, oh, I gave you one. You didn't call on the right number. Mind you, he lived sometimes at his mom's house, sometimes at his granny house, and he had a trap phone, basically. So he, told me which number to call him on or whatnot. So I was like, okay, cool. So when we were talking and everything, I never took him serious because I just wasn't interested in guys. I wasn't interested in anything, period. Like, I'm just focusing on getting out of school. I'm just trying to get done. That's just where my mind is. I'm just trying to get out of school and graduate and move on with life. So, I just never gave him the time of the day. So I used to talk to him or talk about him to Sandra. I would tell her all about him and like stuff we would talk about and everything. And, she would just be like, oh, you should really talk to him. You should give him a chance. Like, I think he's a good guy. Mind you, I'm not knowing how their friends are cool or how she know any of this, right? I'm blindsided. So I don't know. So she's just like boosting him up. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should. So later on, I ended up finding out that they were talking. And I don't remember exactly how I found out they were talking, but knowing me, I had to go through his phone because I'm a detective and that's just how stuff goes. So I went through his phone and I found out that he was talking to her and that they had sexual relations. So I'm like, oh, wow. So Sandra's coming to my house. Like, we're hanging out. We're trying out for cheerleading together. And this girl really is just fucking me over, basically. So I'm like, wow. So I confronted her about it. Of course, she denies it. She's not owning up to it or anything. So we fall out. We're no longer friends. So he finally just confesses about it and tells me, basically, like, he talks down on her saying like she's a thought or she's a hoe or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, well, whatever. So now I come up with this plan in my head, like, okay, well, since she did this to me now, I just feel like I gotta get revenge on the both of them, right? Because y'all not gonna play me like no fools. Because I just didn't understand. Like, me and her was really close. So we were damn near becoming best of friends. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get revenge. Like, I'm gonna talk to this man since you think so highly of him, and he's not wanting you. He wants me. He's trying to make me his girlfriend. So why not? So now so one night he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Because this is part of my plan, right? Now, mind you, this man has taught me a lot of lessons in life, because when this happened with this girl, with Sandra, I realized that females were not the type of friends that I wanted in my life. Even till this day, I still hang out with more males than I do females, because I realize females are really scandalous. And when you hang out with guys, you're less likely to get screwed over, basically. I mean, unless the guy is like undercover or whatever, but you're less likely to get screwed over by your male friends. So that's the lesson I learned in that. So yeah, he asked me one night to be his girlfriend, and I'm like, okay, cool. So the night before he asked me to be his girlfriend was the night before our first cheerleading game, because I tried out. I actually won, and I'm now a cheerleader. So I'm excited that today or the next day is about to be my first day cheerleading. I get to wear one of the cute little outfits they have, because I do remember watching the other cheerleaders walk around the school in their uniforms before before games. And I thought, oh, they look so cute, but I still never thought to be a cheerleader. So I'm like, I'm excited. Like, I got a new boyfriend. My plan is working. I'm going to be cute tomorrow. So everything's working out. So the next day, me and him are boyfriend and girlfriend, right? So I'm just like walking around the school thinking I'm just like the shit, because I got my cute little uniform on now. I'm a cheerleader. Like, hey, here I am. So I'm walking up the stairs to go to my next class, and lo and behold, is my new boyfriend laid up with his baby mama. And mind you, she was pregnant with their child at the time. And me and him had already talked about her prior to this, because I don't think I knew about her like he told me about her. Because I didn't know much about him. Like I said, I just seen him that one time, and I just thought he was beautiful. So he had already told me about her. He said things weren't working out, but she was pregnant with his child, but they were no longer together. And I just took his word for it. And mind you, I probably shouldn't have because of the whole Sandra situation. But at this point, I don't care because I'm only in this for revenge, right? So when I walk up these stairs, I see him. He laid up on the locker, and she's laid up on in front of him like they're a couple. And I'm like, oh wow. So we see each other. Me and him see each other because I don't think she knew about me. If she did, I don't know. But me and him see each other. We lock eyes, and I'm like, okay, cool. Bet, noted. So I go about my way, keep continuing to do what I do, and just being cute in my little uniform. So of course he calls me later on, and all his lies and excuses as to why that went on, and I'm not really hearing it, but I don't care at this point because I'm only with you for one reason, and that's to get revenge. So that's how we eventually ended up together. Our relationship started out a mess. Mind you, me and this guy ended up being together for 2 years. So my last 2 years of high school, we were together. We ended up both falling in love with each other. And throughout that time, he was messing over me. I was messing over him because that's what our relationship was built on at this time. But neither one of us, I wouldn't say that we didn't care, but we just kind of like played our roles. We were young, dumb, and full of cum, so it just didn't matter. And my relationships were only emotional relationships with like other people when I was cheating. His was probably both, but who knows? Like I never asked. Like he was already my first, and I was just always scared to actually move on and try to have sex with other people. So even if I moved on to another relationship, I was still having sex with this man. So yeah, he taught me a lot about myself and a lot about relationships in this time. There was also a time where I had two other friends I became very close with. Both of the girls happened to be best of friends, and I met them and we became really cool. They had transferred to our school as well. So we were really cool. We hung out all the time. And to later find out they also messed with D as well. So it wasn't just like Sandra's situation that made me think women were just scandalous. It was like the multiple situations that kept happening over time that made me think that women are just scandalous. I also learned in that lesson that when you're with a man, you should not talk about your relationship and what y'all do with other people. But again, we were only like sophomore, juniors at this time. So I'm just talking, saying, oh, he is so good. He's this, he's that. And girls sometimes want what you got. So to later find out they were messing with him as well. And Sandra, she just happened to be a thought box. She messed with several other girls in our high school. Their boyfriends, she messed with their boyfriends as well. She had several other different altercations aside from mine for the same situation. I actually became best friends with two other girls in high school later on who actually ended up being loyal friends. And she ended up messing with one of their boyfriends too. So, she was just out there bad, but hey, it is what it is. We were all young. I don't judge them, and I'm not mad at them. So that's just how the story went. So I'm just going to leave it there. There is more to this story about D. If you're interested in hearing more, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll tell you how the rest of our relationship went and what went down and where we are today. So thank you for watching. Bye, guys.